They say talent isn't enough. That in Hollywood, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That success is bought and sold in back rooms and whispered deals, not earned on screen. Los Angeles, March 25, 1954. The RKO Pantages Theatre. The 26th Academy Awards. Frank Sinatra sat in the audience wearing a tuxedo that he'd borrowed because he couldn't afford to buy one. His hands were shaking. His career was in ruins. His marriage was falling apart. He was broke, humiliated, and written off. But in 30 seconds, they were going to call his name. Not because Hollywood loved him. They didn't. They thought he was a has-been. A washed-up crooner who'd stumbled into a movie role he didn't deserve. They whispered about how he got it. The rumors had been circulating for months. He didn't earn that role. The mob got it for him. Columbia Pictures was threatened. It's in the script. Literally, that's why they cast him. Frank had heard every word, every accusation, every sneer, and it had nearly destroyed him. But what happened when they opened that envelope and read his name would silence every critic, every doubter, every person who thought Frank Sinatra was nothing more than a lucky fraud. This is the untold story of From Here to Eternity. The role that was supposed to prove Frank Sinatra was finished, and how one performance delivered for $8,000 when he used to make $150,000 became the greatest comeback in Hollywood history. Not because of the Mafia, not because of favors, but because when the camera rolled, Frank Sinatra proved he was one of the greatest actors of his generation. And the Oscar he won that night, that was just the world finally admitting what he'd known all along. Hollywood, 1952. Frank Sinatra was dying. Not literally, but professionally, which in Hollywood might as well be the same thing. 5 years earlier, he'd been the biggest star in the world. Teenage girls fainted at his concerts. His records sold millions. He made $150,000 per film. He was married to Ava Gardner, the most beautiful woman in Hollywood. He had everything, and then it all collapsed. His voice gave out, hemorrhaged vocal cords. The doctor said he might never sing again. His recording contract with Columbia Records was dropped. MGM didn't renew his film contract. His television show was cancelled. Ava was filing for divorce. By late 1952, Frank Sinatra was broke. He couldn't get hired, couldn't book concerts, couldn't even afford to pay his publicist. He was 37 years old, and he was finished. But Frank wasn't ready to give up. He'd heard about a film being developed at Columbia Pictures, From Here to Eternity, based on James Jones's controversial novel about soldiers stationed in Hawaii before Pearl Harbor. The role of Angelo Maggio, a scrappy Italian-American private who gets beaten to death by a sadistic sergeant, was the kind of role actors killed for. Needed it. It was his last chance. But so did everyone else in Hollywood. New York, fall 1952. Eli Wallach, a respected stage actor, had just auditioned for the role of Maggio. The director, Fred Zinnemann, loved him. The producer, Buddy Adler, loved him. Columbia Pictures executive Harry Cohn was ready to offer him the part. Eli Wallach was going to be in From Here to Eternity. And then Frank Sinatra made a phone call. Frank called Ava, who was filming in Africa. "Baby, I need this role. I need you to call someone, anyone. Get me a meeting." Ava called Joan Cohn, Harry Cohn's wife. "Harry needs to see Frank. Just give him a screen test. That's all I'm asking." Joan talked to Harry. Harry, who hated Frank Sinatra personally, but respected his wife, reluctantly agreed. "Tell him to come to LA. I'll give him 5 minutes." Frank flew to Los Angeles on borrowed money. He walked into Harry Cohn's office wearing a suit that had seen better days, looking thin and desperate. "Harry, I'll do it for nothing. I'll pay you to let me audition." Cohn laughed. "You want to pay me to audition? I'm Maggio, Harry. I grew up with him. I am him. I know this character better than any actor in Hollywood." Cohn studied him. "You look like hell, Frank. That's perfect for Maggio. He's supposed to look like hell." Something in Frank's desperation, his raw hunger, made Cohn pause. "I'll give you a screen test, but I'm not promising anything. Wallach is the front runner." Frank left that office knowing he had one shot, one audition, one chance to save his career. The screen test was scheduled for November 1952. Frank flew back to LA. He'd lost 20 pounds. He looked gaunt, tired, broken, which was exactly right for Maggio. He walked onto the set. Fred Zinnemann, the director, was skeptical. "Frank, I've seen your films. You're a singer. This is serious acting." "Let me show you," Frank said quietly. They ran the scene. Maggio drunk in a bar, talking about his life, his dreams, trying to be tough while falling apart inside. Frank didn't perform the scene. He lived it. Every word came from somewhere real, somewhere hurt. He wasn't playing a character. He was bleeding on camera. When he finished, the set was silent. Zinnemann looked at Buddy Adler. Adler looked at the cinematographer. Nobody spoke. Finally Zinnemann said, "That was Jesus, Frank. That was incredible." But Eli Wallach still had the role. Columbia had essentially promised it to him. And that's when the rumors started. Chicago, December 1952. According to Hollywood legend, and later, according to Mario Puzo's novel The Godfather, Frank Sinatra had connections to organized crime, specifically to Chicago mobster Sam Giancana. The story went like this. Frank called in favors. The mob put pressure on Harry Cohn. Columbia Pictures was persuaded to give Frank the role. Eli Wallach was told the film was delayed and took another job on Broadway, effectively removing himself from consideration. Frank got the part. But was it true? Eli Wallach himself later said he was offered a Broadway play, Camino Real, that conflicted with the film's shooting schedule. He chose Broadway. Columbia didn't force him out. He chose to leave. But Hollywood didn't care about facts. They had a better story. Sinatra's got mob friends. That's how he got the role. He didn't earn it. The whispers spread like wildfire. Columnists wrote blind items. Other actors grumbled. Even people at Columbia wondered if Harry Cohn had been threatened. Frank heard every word, and it killed him. Because he knew the truth. He'd given the screen test of his life. He'd earned that role, but nobody believed him. Hawaii, March 1953. Filming began on From Here to Eternity. The cast was legendary. Burt Lancaster, Montgomery Clift, Deborah Kerr, Donna Reed, and Frank Sinatra, playing Angelo Maggio for $8,000, 1/20th of what he used to make per film. The first day of shooting, Lancaster and Clift were polite but distant. They'd heard the rumors too. He's only here because of the mob. But then Frank started acting, and everything changed. There's a scene where Maggio is drunk, sitting at a bar, telling his friend Pruitt, Montgomery Clift, about his life. It's a small scene, could have been throwaway, but Frank made it devastating. He improvised half the dialogue, made it real, made it hurt. When the scene ended, Clift, one of the greatest actors of the era, was staring at Frank with something like awe. "Jesus, Frank, where did that come from?" Frank shrugged. "I know this guy. I've been this guy." Over the next weeks, Frank dominated every scene he was in. The crew, initially skeptical, became believers. Zinnemann, the director, started giving Frank more freedom, trusting his instincts. There's a scene where Maggio is beaten by the sadistic Sergeant Fatso Judson. Frank did it in one take. No stunt double, no safety measures. He told the actor playing Judson, Ernest Borgnine, "Hit me for real, make it look real." Borgnine hesitated. "Frank, I don't want to hurt you. Hit me." Borgnine hit him, hard. Frank took it, kept acting. The pain on his face was real. The blood was real. When Zinnemann called cut, the entire crew stood up and applauded. Burt Lancaster pulled Frank aside that night. "I'm sorry I doubted you. You're the real deal." Frank smiled, exhausted. "Thanks, Burt." But the rumors still followed him. Sure, he's good, but he bought his way in. August 1953. From Here to Eternity premiered in New York. Critics went insane. The film was called a masterpiece. And Frank Sinatra, the washed-up singer, he was singled out for the best reviews of his life. Sinatra is a revelation. Maggio is the heart of the film. Frank Sinatra proves he's not just a singer, he's a serious actor. The box office exploded. The film made millions, and suddenly, Frank Sinatra's phone was ringing again. Offers for films, offers for records, offers for concerts. The comeback was real, but the whispers didn't stop. Yeah, but he got the role through the mob. And then came Oscar season. March 25, 1954. The 26th Academy Awards. From Here to Eternity was nominated for 13 Oscars, including Best Supporting Actor for Frank Sinatra. Frank arrived at the ceremony with a borrowed tuxedo and a chip on his shoulder. He'd heard the whispers for over a year. He was tired of defending himself, tired of people dismissing his performance because of rumors. He sat in the audience next to Ava, who'd come to support him despite their separation. She squeezed his hand. "You're going to win." "I don't know," Frank muttered. "They still think I cheated. Let them think what they want. You know the truth." The ceremony dragged on. From Here to Eternity started winning. Best Sound, Best Cinematography, Best Editing. And then the moment came. Best Supporting Actor. Mercedes McCambridge opened the envelope. Read the name. Frank Sinatra. The room erupted. Frank sat there for a moment stunned. Then he stood up, walked to the stage, took the Oscar from Mercedes's hands. He looked out at the audience. All the people who'd written him off. All the people who'd said he was finished. All the people who'd whispered mob and favors and cheat. Frank held the Oscar up, and he spoke. "I'd like to thank Harry Cohn and Fred Zinnemann for taking a chance on me. I'd like to thank the cast and crew who believed in me when nobody else did. And I'd like to thank the Academy for recognizing that this," he held up the Oscar, "is about the work, not the rumors, not the whispers. The work." He paused. The room was dead silent. People said I didn't earn this role, that I bought it, that I cheated. Well, here's my answer. He held the Oscar higher. You can't buy this. You can't cheat your way to this. You earn this by showing up, by bleeding on camera, by giving everything you have. And I gave everything I had. So to everyone who doubted me, thank you. You gave me something to prove. The audience erupted in applause. Standing gabble. Even the people who doubted him were on their feet. Frank walked off stage, holding the Oscar so tight his knuckles turned white. Backstage, reporters surrounded him. "Frank, what do you say to the rumors about how you got the role?" Frank looked directly at the camera. "I say watch the film, judge the performance. That's all that matters. I can't control what people whisper, but I can control what I do on screen. And what I did on screen earned this Oscar. Not favors, not connections, talent. That moment was broadcast across America, and it changed the narrative. Suddenly, the story wasn't Sinatra bought his way back. It was Sinatra earned the greatest comeback in Hollywood history. But the story didn't end there. In 1969, Mario Puzo published The Godfather. In it there's a character named Johnny Fontaine, a washed-up singer who gets a movie role through Mafia intimidation. The character was clearly inspired by the rumors about Sinatra and From Here to Eternity. Frank was furious. He confronted Puzo at a restaurant, grabbed him by the collar. "You write one more word about me, I'll kill you." Puzo, terrified, stammered an apology. When The Godfather was being adapted into a film, Frank tried to have the Johnny Fontaine character removed. He called his mob connections, used every bit of influence he had. But Francis Ford Coppola refused. The character stayed, and ironically, The Godfather cemented the legend. To this day, people believe Frank Sinatra got the role of macho through mob pressure. But those who were there know the truth. Frank Sinatra died in 1998. His Oscar for From Here to Eternity was displayed in his home until the end. Visitors would ask about it, and Frank would always say the same thing. "That Oscar represents the hardest thing I ever did. Not the performance, but proving to the world that I deserved it." Eli Wallach, who almost played Macho, was asked years later if he regretted not doing the film. "Of course I do. But Frank was brilliant, better than I would have been. He was Macho, and anyone who says he didn't earn that role didn't watch the film." Burt Lancaster, in a 1980 interview, was asked about the mob rumors. "That's Hollywood bullshit. Frank screen tested like everyone else. He blew us away. He got the role because he was the best actor for it. Period." Fred Zinnemann, the director, said this in 1990. "The mob story is a myth, a convenient narrative for people who couldn't accept that a singer could be a great actor. Frank earned everything he got, and his Oscar is one of the most deserved in Academy history." From Here to Eternity won 8 Academy Awards that night, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Supporting Actor. Frank Best Supporting Actress, Donna Reed, and Best Screenplay. It swept the Oscars, dominated the ceremony, and proved that Frank Sinatra's comeback wasn't luck or favors or mob intimidation. It was talent. Pure, undeniable, devastating talent. Today, when film students study great acting performances, they study Macho. They study the way Frank inhabited that character, the way he made every line feel real, and when they learn about the comeback, they learn the truth. Frank Sinatra didn't buy his way back to stardom, he earned it. One audition, one role, one Oscar, and an entire career reborn from ashes. Not because of who he knew, but because of what he could do when the camera rolled.